welcome to Dream Gates. This is Honey. She came in with Bluebell back in October, and if you've been following along with Bluebell and her baby, we've been very busy with those two, and we haven't done a whole lot with Honey. And Honey's had some riding here. She's had a couple of different riders riding her here, and she's doing just fine. But where she came from, supposedly, there were a lot of little children riding her, and she came in not knowing a whole lot. Great disposition, great temperament, gentle mare, but not a whole lot of faith in human leadership. So I've been doing some little things with her to get her looking more towards a human as a leader. And, you know, she will lead through things pretty well. But what I want to do today is send her through here. She doesn't really like the noodles a whole lot. We have another little noodle challenge out on our trail, and she didn't really like that a whole lot. So when I got off to lead her through it, or when I was leading her through it, then she was just kind of charging around, and she wasn't really paying a lot of attention to me. So what we did was we set up this little challenge here, and we're going to train it to her the right way instead of, you know, getting her a little bit wound up. So what I want to try to do, and I've never done this with her before, is just lunge her around. Come on, we've not done this. And through the barrel. There we go. This is new to her. She doesn't know comprende. So and she gets a little bit rushy because she doesn't really understand. Good girl. There you go. I did her DNA and she came back Tennessee Walker. I don't like this whip. Tennessee Walker and Thoroughbred and Halflinger. Kind of interesting. She's gated. And where she came from, supposedly, she was mostly a pet. And I can really see that about her because she loves people as long as they're feeding her treats and grooming her, tacking her, and that sort of thing. Easy to catch, easy to handle, great for the farrier. Stands like a stone to be groomed. Good, that's what I was waiting for. Stands like a stone to be groomed. And gentle as all get out. And rides decent, you know, for a horse that hasn't, but see that? Hasn't really had a lot of training. Has a really crappy gait. She does a lot of pacing. So I've been working her over poles on that. But there's kind of a there she goes. That's a nice gait, actually. There's sort of a disconnect. There's a hole in this horse, and not a bad hole, but there's a little bit of a disconnect with her trusting human judgment under pressure. So, you know, if something's scaring her a little bit, she doesn't really look to her handler for guidance. She just kind of goes into, I don't like this. Whoa, 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 thank you. She just kind of goes into her own little world, you know, like, oh, okay, this is a little bit scary, and I got to figure it out for myself, and she gets herself a little bit wound up, and, you know, she doesn't do anything crazy, but gets herself a little bit wound up, and doesn't really listen to her handler. So you can tell she hasn't had a lot of guidance, human guidance, that she, you know, she just hasn't had it. And, you know, supposedly she was ridden by a lot of little kids, and I could certainly see that because she doesn't look to her handler for guidance. So I'm going to stop and switch her direction. Whoa, good girl. Tighten up your little halter. So now I got her going the other way. And I'd really like her to slow down a little bit. See her kind of pin her ears. There we go. She'll pin her ears back a little bit like, you know, why are you telling me what to do? So you can tell that she's been kind of in the boss of these little kids. You know, she's not a bad horse. We've had beginners on her, and she's good in the arena with beginner. But really what she needs is somebody who knows what they're doing to kind of guide her and let her realize that she doesn't have to be responsible for every little thing that goes on. That's what I want right there. So I wanted her to walk both ways. Very good. Ooh. We named her Honey because supposedly what the horse trader told us was that she was given a honey bun every morning for breakfast. So maybe you know this horse. She came from Louisiana. And that's really all we know about her, is that supposedly she was ridden by a bunch of little kids. And she definitely was a pet. And she definitely has phenomenal ground manners. You know, when you're looking for I'm always looking for the pluses on these horses. And she has phenomenal ground manners for catching, tying, grooming, bathing, farrier, tacking. She rides quiet. But when something gets a little squirrely, a little scary, she doesn't really look to her rider or her handler. So I want to do a lot of little things with her to get her over that. So we got her walking both directions around the barrel, and what we did was we pulled the barrels in a little bit closer. So I like to train horses incrementally, meaning I'm not just going to have the barrels there with the noodles like this and force the horse through it. So we started with them far apart. We moved her through it in both directions. And now I'm going to send her through, and she might feel those noodles on her a little bit. She might not. So we'll see. And we'll see what she does. But I want her to accept going through it while it's this wide before we make it even a little bit closer. And she has to go through it both directions. All right, so here we go. Very nice. Good girl. She's a very quick study. I was using the lunge whip earlier just as an extension of my hand, but I didn't need it. She's figuring this out really quickly. But so you can see the difference in her now than she was at the beginning. Very good. And you know, she doesn't have to do it all day. She just have to do it a couple of times. Give her a cookie, because she's definitely a cookie monster. She's had a lot of cookies in her life from her former owner. So, you know, when she's right, I'll give her a little cookie. Let her chew on that. Tell her she's a good girl. She's got a nice low whirl, which goes along with her good temperament. She has a great temperament. She just needs a little training. Good. Very nice. You know, 2 or 3 times around. Doesn't have to go 100 times. As long as she's giving me the walk that I want, there's no point. There's no point in beating a dead horse, you know. There's no point in making a horse that's doing something right do it over and over. Whoa. Whoa. Good girl. So now I have these noodles close enough together to where they are going to touch her. And first of all, I want to talk to you about doing something to excess with a horse. I did mention a minute ago that you don't want to do something over and over and over. If she gets it right 2 or 3 times, my criteria is I wanted her to walk quietly, which she did. Then I stop and move on. I see a lot of people that work a horse and work a horse. They might go through the noodles 750 times. Well, the horse never knows it's right unless you give it relief, unless you give it a break, unless you tell it it's right. So if somebody asks you what's 1 + 1 700 times, you're going to get kind of tired of it. And a horse is the same way. There's no point in drilling a horse and drilling it, drilling it, drilling it. Once it does something right, then if you keep drilling it, then that starts to fall apart and it just gets worse. And then by the time you quit, you've taught your horse to be worse than it was in the beginning. So we just have them do something we ask a few times, and then that's it. So now, since this is going to touch her, I'm going to touch her a little bit first with the flag and let her hear the noise of the flag, which is going to be the noise of those noodles. and, you know, let her be aware of her body and the touch that's about to come. All right, good girl. She's fine with this. And I've not done with this with this horse before. This is all new to her, but I did notice when I took her through the noodles out on the trail that, you know, she got worried about it. So we're doing it here in the arena where I've got some better control. All right, I'm going to go ahead and send her around. Yeah, see, it scared her a little bit, so we'll just do it again. See, every time it's touching her, it's scaring her. So we will do this until she stops spooking at that. Still spooking at it. You see, when she speeds up her step, then you know she's a little worried about it. So I'm waiting for her to just keep the same cadence walking through. You want to go? Good girl. See, this is what she does. She gets herself a little bit wound up and she rushes. You know, that's why we're doing it. I know, it's a lot. It's closer together. See, she's saying no. I'm saying yeah. Good girl. It's not hurting you. Good girl. It's not hurting you. Yeah, there she's breathing a little bit, letting down a little bit. Wind kicked up. See, this is what I call an exorcism. And I don't want to do this out on the side of a cliff when a tumbleweed blows up against her. That's better. I'm going to, whoa. Okay, so reward the slightest try, the slightest change. So I'm going to let her rest for a minute. Let her have a cookie. You have to be able to read them and watch, you know, watch her demeanor change. You know, she was goofy, she was spooky, she was goosey, you know, and then she got fast, and then she didn't want to do it, and then she went through it. It was still a little bit fast, but it was better than before. So let her stand here and think about it for a second. Let her chew on it, literally. All right? I'll send her through again. Very good. Whoa. Now notice that when I let her think about it for a minute, I let her stop and think about it for a minute. After she did it better, then she was able to relax to it, and then she was able to do it. Good girl. We're not done. We're not done, because I want her to do it right a few more times and then do it from the other side. Very good. Good girl. Keep going. You'll get a cookie every time. Good. See the difference in her attitude? See the difference in the way she's carrying herself? Much more relaxed. One more time like that, and I'll stop her and we'll do the other way. And then we'll pull it in tight all the way. So the further away you start with a goal. Now that time I scared her with the rope, raising my hand. She wasn't really spooking at the noodles. But the farther you start from your goal, the faster you get there. So now we're going to send her the other way. That'll be a whole different thing. Good girl. Very good. Keep on. We'll just get, if I can get 3 good ones out of her, then I'll quit. Pull the noodles in. See, my hand going up scaring her a little bit over that flag. Good girl. One more time. See, this is the state of mind I want in my riding horse. I don't want that other squirrely horse. I want this horse. Ooh. Good girl. Okay, I'm going to give her a break, congratulate her, and we're going to pull the barrels in a little bit closer together. So now we have these noodles as close together as they can be without crossing them. So this is just like a trail obstacle at a show. So we started really wide. We've been working our way in, and we'll see if she'll actually come through these noodles. Good girl. It's got a little bit excited. Keep going. And you know, you can't blame them. It looks like a fence. You don't want them going through a fence. Good girl. Get rid of this. You know, you don't want them coming up to a wire fence and thinking they can walk through it. But see, she's got to trust the judgment of her handler or her rider. And if a lot of little kids have been riding her, they probably haven't shown her a lot of reason to trust. Good. It's pretty good. Want her to come through without jumping her back legs. That was better. What I'm looking for is the same cadence all the way around. Maybe a little bit faster, but not so dramatic. That was better. Whoa. You know, it's just the little changes. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to adjust my noodles. So I'm just letting her have a little break, a little rest. You know, if you keep pushing them, and they just get all wound up in their head, and I just give her a break. She did pretty good on the last one. I adjusted the noodles up a little bit. They were getting kind of low. But I'm going to let her take a little break and then send her back through them again. You'd be surprised how giving them a little break, letting them think for a minute, makes it all go so much more smooth. All right. Try it without my flag. Good girl. That's pretty good. I just want her to get over that back leg thing that she's doing. That's better. Whoa. You know, just a little different. It's got a little bit better. But I'm still going to do it a little bit more. I just want her to walk through it and not be worried about it. And sometimes when they have a little bit of worry left, you take a day off and then you come back to it and then all of that worry is gone. Sometimes they just need to sleep on it. That's exactly what I wanted right there. That was it right there. So I'm going to take a little break with her. And, you know, a lot of people watch this and they go, well, why do I care if my horse goes through noodles in a barrel? It's really not about the noodles. It's not about the obstacle of the barrels. It's about the horse trusting the judgment of the handler, feeling self-confident and confident in their handler, able to do these tasks with confidence and in a relaxed frame of mind, so that when you go out for a ride, you're more likely to have a relaxed frame of mind. And if you come across some sort of an obstacle or some sort of a glitch or a problem, your horse is less likely to lose its mind. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll have her do this a couple more times and we'll go the other direction. You know, some of these older horses, she's 13. Some of them that's not old, but she's older. She's old enough to know better. Go on. But the age doesn't teach horses anything. Training teaches them. And so a lot of these older, gentle, quiet horses, there's a lot of holes in their training because people can get by with riding them. But I don't want to get by. I want my horse to be solid. Good girl. Whoa. I want my horse to be a solid citizen. And, you know, you end up getting yourself in a wreck when you have a really quiet horse and you leave a bunch of holes in it. Eventually the wreck is coming. So you might as well fill those holes. All right, we're going to go the other way. So I'm going to try to send her the other way. Little rushy. That's why we got to go both ways. No cookie for that one. She pinned her ears back. She's a little rotten, that's for sure. She's a little rotten. That's not her fault, though. You know, horses are the way they are because of the way they've been handled and trained. So it's not her fault. She's a little bit rotten. Good girl. Keep going, though. See her, she'll back her ears a little bit like, you know, you're going to make me again? You're going to make me do it? That was better. One more time, I'll give her a cookie. That's better. Whoa. Give her a little break. Let her think about it. You know, there has to be something in it for these horses, especially these spoiled horses that are always looking for a treat. You know, eventually I'm going to fade all these treats. But it's like a treat-trained dog. You know, dogs are always getting treats, always getting treats. And then you don't have treats, and they don't want to do what you want them to do because you don't have treats, because they're really working for the food. They're not working for you. So this horse, I don't think she's ever been told what to do a whole lot. So, you know, this is really hard on her little brain. It's a lot of thinking for this little tiny brain. So, you know, I'm giving her a treat, letting her rest, and then I'll ask her to go again. You know, you can catch more flies with honey, and her name is Honey. You can see the radical change in her from when we started. Her head's nice and low. She's thinking about those noodles instead of freaking out about them. And one more time, and then I'm going to call it a day. Ooh. So it doesn't get any better than that. And, you know, we'll revisit this tomorrow. And when we revisit this tomorrow, we'll start with the barrels out really wide again. You know, I always go back to where things were super easy. I don't start hard. You know, go back to where it was easy, and then we'll work up to this point much faster. But review, I tend to like to start where it's real easy and then work up from there. So I hope this helps you in your horse training journey. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share.